All right, so I was excited for this opportunity. I'm going to try to do my best to give you ideas to reach diverse learners, and I kind of took that in a variety of different ways, and I'll kind of explain that. So based on your discussion, some of the things you were talking about as I walked in, I think are going to be influenced by this presentation. I tried to do it as you never know what kind of student you're going to get on a given day. You're not going to know what they came in with, what kind of baggage they're carrying, what kind of needs they have, and so how can we leverage technology to help reach all those students. So my goal with this is 20 ideas in hopefully 20 minutes. That's my goal. I'm going to keep an eye on that. We'll see if it actually works out. So that's my goal. We'll see. If you want to, this little URL right here, tinyurl.com/diversetech, takes you to the presentation, and everything in this presentation is clickable, so you can go check it out. So if a couple ideas hit with you and you said that might work for me, that's something you can check out. So tinyurl.com/diversetech. I can also forward that to you, Beth, and you can send that out to them if you want. So add it to the D2L, whatever you want to do. So you can actually, if you want to pull up your phone and like check out this, if you're like, okay, I don't care what he said, but that idea sounded really cool, you could, just ignore me and look at that right now on your phone if you wanted to. I wouldn't be offended. Okay. All right. Good so far? Good? Okay. So when we talk about your students, and once again, I just had the opportunity to walk in right at the perfect moment when you were talking about some of these very powerful stories. They, at first glance, they look quite normal, right? You got 4 pretty normal-looking people, students that might be in your class or you might be working with potentially. Granted, they're pixelated a little bit, but otherwise they look pretty normal, right? But, what you might not know is this one hasn't eaten in 2 days. This one, you're in a 5th grade classroom. This one's reading at 1st grade level. This one should be 2 grades ahead, but, the system says, well, you're this age, so you're in this class, right? And this one has never liked school. It's 9th grade. He has never been interested in a lesson in his life, right? So you've got all these different needs, right? You got somebody who can barely think about school. You got somebody who would love to keep up with the readings but isn't quite there yet. You got someone who's bored out of their mind. You got someone who is just scoffing at you because they don't see how it relates to them, right? So what ways can technology enhance the experience so that they find a connection with school? And the first thing I'll say is technology isn't a silver bullet. It starts with relationships. I'm sure you all know that. Before they can really work with you, they got to trust you. But technology can help build those relationships too. So how does it happen? 3 ways that, Beth kind of sent me some follow-up ideas to consider, which was really great because my mind was going like 50 different ways, and I kind of tried to hone in kind of her ideas and my ideas into 3 categories. So I was thinking really 3 ways you can leverage technology, and just even not technology, is passions, personalization, and assessment. So those are 3 things that you can use. And here's the kicker. I'm glad you're taking notes. I'm very thrilled and honored. But if you want to just go back after the fact and look at this too, you can. So I won't be offended if none of you or all of you are taking notes. I should just clarify that right now. So you've got these 3 areas that I think you can really impact with tech, and that's just tip the iceberg. There's plenty more out there too. So when we look first at passions, there's a lot of different ways you can tap into this. I am going to throw 5 ideas up here, but there are 500,000. And one of the biggest things I'll recommend you is start with your passions and lead with your passions and tell them it's okay to infuse their passions in what they do. So you have to model that idea of taking passions and running with it. So it starts with you. My passion was always music. I would make up dumb songs. I would bring songs in the classroom and tell them any way you can work your songs in, do it. I told them I'm like a lackluster guitar and player and singer, but I'm going to do it anyway, because the other thing is it doesn't have to be perfect, whatever the passion is too. So that's another thing that I recommend to them is don't think just because you're not the best at your passion you can't do it. I mean, whatever it is. If they like writing fan fiction, great. If they like playing games, great. If they like social media, great. They don't have to be perfect at it, but how can they infuse those passions into what they do? So there's a lot of different ways you can infuse passions into the classroom. Just 5 ideas that kind of stuck out to me when I was thinking about this, and there are 5 things that I think are really relevant with today's learners. And this one really involves it all, which is inquiry-based learning. You might have heard it be called project-based learning or problem-based learning. Well, the idea of challenging a student saying, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with your situation, your group situation, this class's situation, the school situation, the world situation, and what's the solution? It could be a little thing, right? Well, my phone case broke the other day. Okay, well, what can we do about it? Or, I noticed this need in the community. How can we solve that? And then putting it on them to help meet the standards through solving that problem, right? So that's one way to get their passions involved in it. Some people call this genius hour, taking 20% of their time in school and saying, go out and figure out something you didn't know a lot about. I'm not prescribing you what to do. I want you to go out and pursue something that you are passionate about and make something that can teach others, can help somebody understand what you're passionate about. Oh, I just like right click, that's awkward. There we go. All right, this one on the right, social media. We can either fight back against it or we can embrace it because our students are going to be using it no matter what. What kind of age levels? Anybody working primarily with elementary or younger students? Anybody planning on working with secondary? All right. Anybody have no clue or all of the above? All right. I like that. Good mix. Yeah. So this is one idea that's kind of taken on right now. It's really exciting to me. Snapchat. How many people are using Snapchat currently? This is like the most popular or the biggest growing social media platform in the teen, early 20s, that demographic that everybody's trying to capture right now. It's huge. There's a thing called book snaps right now. Tara Martin, I just got to meet her a few weeks ago. She started this whole craze. Anybody heard of book snaps? It's freaking sweet. That's all I have to say about that. So the idea behind it is students, they're choosing their phones over their books, right? Well, what if we could fuse kind of two passions that they have together, right? Their phones and their books, Snapchat. They're snapping key passages of their books. They're adding their Bitmojis to it. They're circling, they're highlighting, they're annotating, because you can do all that in Snapchat. They're putting it out to their story. And then they're sharing their stories with their classmates, with their teacher, things like that. Pretty crazy, right? Kind of a genius integration. That was just a teacher going, what are my students passionate about? Oh, their phone before me, right? Well, let's leverage that phone that they've got. Now, elementary teachers, you're probably going, not going to work for us. There's very easy ways to fake that, right? You can have them, in a Google drawing, pull in their Bitmoji, have them take a snapshot of their book, whatever it might be. You'd be surprised what kindergartners can do with a camera in their hands. It's kind of scary, actually. So this idea doesn't sound so far-fetched, really, when you get out there and see what they're capable of. All right, Mecha Bricks. I just thought about another passion that I saw. A lot of students are makers. They have to do something tactile with their hands. So this could be low-tech, no-tech, or high-tech. Mecha Bricks is basically an online program where you can design using Legos online, except you've got the entire collection of Legos ever. So you can actually build anything you want with Legos online, or just have a bunch of Legos in your classroom. There's a gentleman named Quinn Rollins. He wrote a book called Play Like a Pirate, and he actually has all these different lessons that just involve having a handful of Legos and saying, just design this biome. What would this biome look like with this collection of Legos? Represent that biome. Kids go and do it. Represent this character. Represent all the places you've visited as an icebreaker with this collection of Legos only. And you're in this group, and you all have to show how many places you've been with these Legos only. Kind of an interesting design challenge, right? So a passion of students needing to be hands-on, tactile, kind of a clever use of it. Minecraft, just taking advantage of the fact that 97% of teenagers are playing video games in some way, shape, or form. Have played one either a couple times a month to every day. You've got 94% of those being female when we think it's a males-only club. We've got a big demographic numbers showing in the Pew Research showing that's not true. It's everybody playing games in some way, shape, or form. Ooh, I just skipped the bell. Oh my gosh, I just skipped. Or did I? Have I been just hitting random buttons? I don't even know. Just tell me if something I'm talking about doesn't match up there. I don't look at the screen ever. So Minecraft, a lot of students playing this. This was, my wife and I taught a summer school Minecraft course. We couldn't fit everybody in the class, right? We had to turn students away because we physically didn't have enough computers, right? And the kids are like, we'll pair up, we don't care. Okay, I guess we can do that. But the idea of giving them a chance to create a society, create from their wildest imaginations is pretty powerful, and it's a passion they have. And they teach us. My wife and I didn't teach the class. The students taught the class. We were there to facilitate the ideas that they could go forward with. So that was something very powerful to us, is giving them that opportunity to create in a virtual world that they're comfortable in. And it's pretty cool when the jocks come in from that gym class in the first period and they're in second period, and suddenly they're taking orders from that kid who they always thought was that quiet one in the corner who didn't have many friends. Suddenly they're like, well, if I don't listen to this kid, I'm going to get myself killed. It's an interesting dynamic switch when you've got that happening. You see these kids who didn't feel like leaders suddenly become leaders in that situation. That's because their passion was unlocked. It was something that they felt comfortable in, and they got to feel, that experience of, okay, I need to take on this role because this person needs me to be successful. And then finally, building on that gamification or gamified experience, there's a program called Classcraft, and what it does, and this is just one part of a big collection of making your classroom feel like this adventure, this quest that the students are on. This is a platform that lets you do it. So instead of your students being like, I got to retain that A, they're thinking, I start here, I need to build my experience up to get to mastery. So instead of thinking, okay, oh, I hope I don't lose points, I don't want to slip to that B, or I'm right at that D, I don't want to go to an F, it's, okay, if I keep working, I'm going to get better, I'm going to improve, I got that growth mindset, and I'm going to get to a point where I can call myself the master of this challenge that I've been given. So it kind of adds that game element. What happens in games? You fail a lot, right? Students know this most of all. They're not used to this, you fail once and suddenly you're at that grade you didn't want. They're used to, I keep failing and failing, I get better, and then I'm to here, right? So Classcraft helps kind of make that happen by providing kind of that layer of that game atmosphere to it, right? The next step is personalization. So this is tailoring it to the student's needs. And you look back at that slide we had with the 4 different students, and that was just a small snapshot of what you might be seeing on a given day. Personalization is taking a student's needs and finding something to match that and finding something that's going to have it at their appropriate level, right? Their comfortable, zone of proximal development. Did I use that term right, Beth?
You did.
Oh,
yes. You recognize that?
Yeah.
Who
So
is that by? Who said that? Who said that?
I think it's a V, isn't it?
It's Vygotsky.
It's Vygotsky.
Yes.
All right. Still got it. Okay.
Learning theory.
There you go. Beautiful. So we need that because currently our educational system is focused a lot on, okay, we hope you're all here when you get there, right? We hope you're all 5th graders. But actually you're a 7th grader in reading, but you're a 3rd grader in math. You over there are in 9th grade, but you're never going to be able to read any of the text in 9th grade, right? So how do we change the game to make it fit for our students, right? This is one of the biggest challenges you'll face. I am still bad at it, and here I am up in front talking about it for you. You're probably like, oh crap, we picked the wrong speaker, right? But there's a lot of tools you can use to help you with that process. These are just 8, and there are 8,000, like I said, for all these. These are 20 ideas, 20 minutes, and I'm probably, sorry Beth, going to go over my 20 minutes. I'm going to do my best.
I don't care.
So
Save the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot of different programs here, just talking about a few. Just get your idea of what kind of that personalized program can look like. So we've got a program like Edpuzzle in the corner. Edpuzzle allows you to basically share a video, and I think Play Pause It or Educanon would be very similar. I think that's a comparable one. A lot of programs out here like this, but basically you can push out a video you've made, somebody else has made, that's got great instruction, but you can intervene in the video with your own audio or textual little notations to explain something. You can stop and ask a formative question. I don't know if we've gotten to the assessment class yet, but okay, we're getting there. Formative, summative, you'll learn to love them, right? So get a question where you can gauge where students' knowledge is at. You can, add an end assessment to see kind of did they take away things. So that allows you to have a chance to set your students out to kind of learn and then really intervene with some of those students who are at those lower levels or push those students who are at the higher levels, right? Just simple things like technology allows us to do things like speech to text, voice typing, tons of different things. Almost all apps are starting to develop some sort of voice typing so that you can enter in, Google Docs being one of them. And Google's read and write allows for text to be converted. Anything on the internet essentially to be converted to spoken. Different languages, different speeds. Students can actually change the speed of the person who's speaking the text to them, which is pretty incredible. So thinking about your students who do struggle, who you still want to have that research experience, who are pursuing their passions, they can have technology that allow them to speak what they type or hear what they are reading too. We've got things that can kind of, self-pace different subjects. Khan Academy, probably one that you've heard, has kind of been a big deal in the educational technology sphere. The idea of being math at your level. When you understand the concept, you get to move on. You don't wait for the rest of the class to move on. You go at your speed with math. So it's flipped math where you're getting instruction either from videos, from a short mini lesson from your instructor, and then you're going and setting yourself free to kind of test your knowledge. So you can skip by the things you don't need to hear instead of just sitting and waiting for the rest of the class to get where you are. Or if what the class is covering is beyond you, you can go back to basics and build up your skills to the point where you can get comfortable too. There's amazing levels of personalization that are happening in these technologies. This one just released Monday. Beth, I think this one you'd get excited about. Have you heard of this Legends of Learning?
No.
Just came out Monday. I'm excited to a degree. It's basically a gentleman spent the last few years working with science teachers, companies who put out science programs, and it's a platform where students can do simulations and games related to science, and it's all personalized. They can work through some preset experiences that the teachers set up, and then they can kind of go hog wild in the subject area. So if they're looking at Earth systems, there might be a couple games the teacher really wants them to experience to understand how those things interplay, and then they get to explore and determine which ones sound like a good fit for them, things they're curious about, ones they want to replay because they didn't quite understand. So it's all personalized science simulations and games. Pretty cool. And they want to add other subject areas. And then the last three are really for differentiated feedback and differentiated reading as well. So Flipgrid is an exciting one. A lot of students struggle with written feedback to classmates or written discussions. Flipgrid is all a video talking discussion. I can tell you I've had tons of students who struggled to write out their thoughts on a topic, but as soon as I turned on a camera and told them, okay, talk out your thoughts, they were fine. They could verbalize them, you know, they could express them via their tone and their expression, had just trouble writing it down. But they still understood what was going on. They still had important thoughts to get out. And so Flipgrid lets them do video responses to prompts and lets them respond via video to their classmates. So if you ever had that kid who wanted to give feedback, wanted to give support and praise, but typing, writing, whatever it was a big barrier, this is all video-based feedback. And it works on any device. The future, you guys are living in the future right now. We had to chisel into stone when Beth and I were going to school. You guys are very lucky. So, Newsela and Epic are basically, I kind of look at them as Netflix for reading. So Epic Books, they've got books from K-12, and it looks like Netflix, honestly. And all the kids nowadays know Netflix. They're going through the system. That's just, they're used to a system that looks like Netflix. That's what Epic looks like, except books, and it recommends books that they think they like based on what they chose beforehand. Now, I will say nothing replaces a good physical book that a student looked at, saw in the library, and said, yes, this is a book for me. So reading on a computer sometimes can be good, but it's still powerful to have them make a little pillow fort in the back of your classroom and read in there, right? I never want to take that away. So it might just be that I read a blog post about like not taking books away from students, but that also could be it too. And then Newsela is that, but essentially just news articles, research articles, things like that, where it can be tailored to their reading level. So instead of them feeling limited by their ability to read or not feeling challenged by the text, they can turn that up or down, or the teacher can recommend what level that's at too. So, yeah, question?
Two questions.
Yeah.
Just with the personalization. The read and write, you said that works with essentially any website on the internet?
Yeah, it does. There's a few that it just can't interpret based on how they're laid out. But yeah, it's a little extension in Google, and you can kind of click that and highlight text, and it reads it to you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Legends of Learning, I know you said it just came out Monday, and it's a science?
Science-based, yep.
So just, you hear, okay, it's science games. You think it's, kind of like an elementary. But how broad is, like, the science? Is it going to be something that, a high schooler senior that's taken every science class known to mankind and wants to go into marine biology, are they going to have that? Or is that still, like, in the learning process or in the trial phase?
Yeah, they have hundreds of games. I started playing a few of them this past week just because it just came out, and they kind of run the gamut. I don't know if that student who's done everything known to man is going to feel pushed by them. So it would have to be one you'd have to check out what they've got, to be honest. They tie them to the standards, though, so you could look at the standards that student is struggling, or maybe not struggling with, but maybe wants to really take off in and really experiment with and see if there are ones that are a good fit. So that's what's nice is you could look at the standards that they're looking to accomplish with marine biology.
All right, and it's actually like a whole lesson. It's not like, okay, we're learning about cells and just the one thing is naming the parts of the cell, and then that's it with the game. It's not gonna go through a whole lesson. Okay, this is a cell, this is what it does, and this.
Some of them introduce. That's a great question. Some of them introduce concepts. Some of them you probably could have to have some background knowledge before you play, and some of them are assessments. Like, you should know this. Now let's step in. So they all kind of run the gamut actually. Of, hey, this would be a good primer. This would be a good. Okay, where is everybody at? This is a good. I want to know where you're at because you should be at a point where this is no problem to you.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that a program that we have access to, or is it something you have to pay to use?
So the Legends of Learning, that one is free to play, and then there's like a payment-based system to get more access to things. So it kind of free. Yeah.
I'm on the site right now, and just so you know, the principles used here are really grounded in legitimate science and grounded in the learning sciences. Actually, one of my colleagues did a major study on this. It's really diverse. There are so many different resources on here, and there are a variety of different ways to use it. This is absolutely fabulous. Let's get under the hood with this, and let's do some research on it and take a look at what's all available. This is really exciting.
I can tell you.
Right.
I can tell you. I've had the two extremes in it too. I went and played a game, and I'm like, oh, this hangs out very low on Bloom's. Am I throwing out weird terms? No. Bloom's taxonomy, understanding and remembering. So one game hung out here. Another game, I made some very tough choices in the game. I had to evaluate the choices. I was up very high on Bloom's, doing some higher order thinking. So they run the gamut. There are some games I would not recommend anyone. There's a game I was like, this is powerful. I'm making choices. I'm seeing how my choices impact what the results are. I need to retinker kind of what I did. So hope that helps. Yeah, question?
This might be a dumb question.
No dumb questions, ever.
Are these apps? Are these like websites?
That's a great question. And in my 20 minutes, I've already gone over, by the way, score. Hopefully Beth doesn't notice. They're a little bit everything. I like to focus on tools that are what I call device neutral. So that term means they would work on pretty much anything. So
Okay.
a lot of what I'm showing you would work on tablet, phone, desktop, laptop,
Because
right?
like in case the kids don't have like iPads or whatever to get like the app.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say 93%, that was a number I just pulled out of my butt, of these would work on any device. Yeah. Good question.
You can win a cape too.
What's that?
You can win a cape.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't know. I was at a conference a few weeks back, and there were all these people in these capes, and I didn't know what it meant, and it was them. They were all just walking around in capes.
I mean, that's just perfect
Yep,
marketing.
just superheroes walking around a conference. Any other questions on this page or the previous page? I should have said questions are encouraged and not dumb. Yeah.
So, are all of them free? And then, like, you can get more access if you pay, or do you have to pay to start this?
That's a great question as well. I mean, a big rule for me is free, and maybe the premium stuff is paid, right? So that's the focus with these. These are all free, and then more premium features are going to kick up the cost a little bit. So I do try to focus on those because I realize the ones that aren't going to be free, Minecraft Education Edition is not going to be free because Microsoft owns it. And they're like in their little base camps maniacally laughing right now. That's not true. They put out a lot of good stuff, but that's not going to be free, unfortunately. So pretty much everything else, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. These are all free for educators. Epic is free for educators. Read and Write is free for educators. Legends of Learning free, and then I think they have a coin-based system, so you can dish out all these games and track your students via coins. The way you get more coins, it's kind of cool, is if you help review the game. So you can ask your students, "What did you think of this?" They tell you what to say in the review, and then you post that, and you get access to more games. So really all they're asking in return is help us build the community and figure out what games are good for learning. And students, if you can imagine, would love that. You could literally have that be like a reflection piece. Like, was this a good game for learning? Now you're putting the students up at that higher level of thinking, too, of evaluating. Okay, did I take something away from this? Did it push me, or was it kind of silly? So, something to think about.
So,
Yes?
just on the previous slide, you were talking about the book snaps, I think it was called.
Yes.
Now, Snapchat, the big thing with them is you have 10 seconds to look at it.
Yes.
Is book snaps, like a hashtag as you have it up there, or is it an actual app that, a teacher can get that Snapchat, it's going to stay there, or is it a hashtag that, you look at it, got a quick screenshot it, and
That's a great question. This is why I didn't get into Snapchat, because in my head, this is what happens when you become a teacher. I'm just going to warn you right now. You start everything you see ever, you're like, how can I manipulate this into the classroom in some way? It'll just happen. It's a sickness. You can't get rid of it. I'm just, like I said, I want you to know, going in it, you know what I'm talking about, Beth. Like, everything, you look at it through a teacher's lens.
Oh, yeah.
Like what you're thinking, like, I didn't like Snapchat because it was too, I think the word is ephemeral, where it's just gone, Is that the right use of ephemeral? Anyway,
Yeah.
Excellent. So I still got an English teacher, formerly. So it's gone. I didn't like that. But now, very simple solution to that. You can save your snaps. So you can take a snapshot of that. There's a little save to camera roll on there. So what teachers do is they have students snap their little Snapchats they make. Still send them out to your stories. Still have kids check out your Snapchat story of your book snaps. And then those